Hello, welcome to another weekly update. I hope you're doing really well. I hope you have had a good week and all is going well. Lots of interesting things happening on this side of the fence. Lots going on. Obviously, Microsoft Ignite is next week. That's all happening. We've started to see bits and pieces. It's always funny. I talked about this previously, actually. It's always interesting, like leading up to a big Microsoft event, because simultaneously stuff gets held back, but also some bits kind of start to get put in place, so you can sometimes see a little bit maybe of what might be and stuff like that. And so interesting things to cover this week. And also what might be really interesting as well is that 15 minutes ago the Teams photo booth went live, so apparently that was scheduled to go live at 8 a.m. Pacific, so we might go and have a look at that as well on the call. Might be a bit interesting. So let's start off with a blog post I did earlier this week, though. So this is kind of a big deal. So it's around creating meetings in Microsoft Teams as an application. So what does that mean? So you've been able to use the Microsoft Graph API for a little while to create Microsoft Teams meetings. But mostly you've needed to do that with user delegated permissions. What does that mean? It means you have to have an access token from a user. So the user needs to have logged in, you need to get that token and use that token to create the meeting. And then the meeting is sort of created on behalf of that user and has, if you go and look at it, it says that the organizer is that user. Doing all of that, creating it as an application, has been something that's been around for a little while. It was in beta and then got pulled, so it's always been kind of tricky. And I kind of get why it's tricky, because you can imagine there's bits of the Microsoft Teams substrate and like Microsoft 365 and the audit stuff and the compliance, like all these bits and pieces that probably do really want a meeting to have an organizer associated with it. And things probably get a bit complicated and tricky if that's not true, or if it's an application ID rather than an object or a user ID. And yeah, I kind of get why it's complicated. And so this has been quite a long time coming, and I wasn't actually entirely sure whether it ever would come, but it's here now, so that's good. It's in beta, it's not in 1.0, but yeah, looking really, really promising. I've done a whole blog post about it. It's the same create online meeting call as before, actually. It's just you do it slightly differently. And it's weird because it's not 100% application permissions and it's not 100% user permissions. It's some kind of melding of the both. How it works is it's like application permissions here. So as a developer, you have your application, you get your token just like you would for anything else. And it's application permissions, but it won't, if you just try and do this, it won't work. The application needs to be associated with the user, and you do that using something called an application access policy. So let's come down to here. There's some PowerShell you need to run, and basically you take your application ID and you take your user ID and you sort of join them together and say, like, this application can do these things, and when it does those things, it does them on behalf of this user. If you do that, it means that you don't need to have the user present, so you don't need to use the bearer token from the logged in user. You can do it from the application, but it still gets created kind of on behalf of that user. The user still gets tied to that meeting. So that's a really nice kind of workaround. It's a nice halfway house. I guess it keeps the back end happy. It keeps the audit and compliance people happy. So that's good to see. It definitely keeps developers happy as well, because there's loads of places where you'd want to be able to create meetings as an application without having a user present, without a user being in the mix. So yeah, really, really good to see. I like that. I said at the bottom of the blog post, actually, because it, like I say, it's been in beta previously, and then it went away, it got deprecated, and then it was going to get removed, and I grumbled about it at the time. So I'm pleased to see that it's coming back, because I think it is really important. Yeah. All right, so I've talked a little bit, so obviously Microsoft Ignite being next week, and there's definitely news stories out about that at the moment. I did a blog post about the 5 ones I'm looking forward to seeing. And let's just look at these. So there's lots of interesting things. So some to really call out is this second one: build custom apps to drive productivity in the remote work world. So this, if you remember Dataflex a few months ago, that quickly got renamed to be Project Oakdale. That's this, I think. So one of the speakers is Mark McCurry. He's the principal product PM for Project Oakdale. So I feel like if anyone is going to be talking about Project Oakdale, then it's going to be him, which is good. Like, we haven't really had a lot of details since the announcement at Inspire about Dataflex. Was it Inspire? I think so. I can't remember anymore. I think it was Inspire. It was around July time. We haven't really had any real detail about it since then. So yeah, it's going to be really good to see that, I think. And then some others as well that I think are interesting, I think are worth digging into. Some are Power Platform, some are Teams development, some are conversational AI. They're just 5 that I thought were really interesting. And there's some good sessions this year as well. It's worth looking around. I always think it's worth going to a completely random couple of sessions that have nothing to do with the day job or the stuff that you think you're interested in. Go and learn about something in quantum computing or IoT or bots or something. Something you don't already know about. Go to like a 100 session or a 200 session. It's just really interesting to see what else is happening in the ecosystem. And Ignite and big conferences like Ignite are quite good for that, because normally I would just walk kind of down the hallway for a bit and just sort of see what I see and just drop in on something that sounded interesting. It's harder to do that online, obviously. So just try and make time for it. I think it's really hard to attend virtual conferences as well, if I'm honest. I talked about this quite a lot with Mark Vale, who organised Commsverse. So there's a big, really long interview I did. You can find it on YouTube on my channel. Like, it's like an hour long. And I pulled some bits out in a blog post about it. But the whole video, I kept it in as an hour because actually there's loads of really interesting things in there. All of the stuff Mark was saying, I couldn't cut out because it was all kind of gold. So anyway, we were talking through virtual conferences being hard, and you're trying to do it alongside the day job. You're trying to do it, you're kind of half an ear on things whilst you're trying to do other work, and you're really not super invested in the conference, I think, unless you purposefully do it. So I'm taking some time off this year. I'm taking time off from work to attend Ignite. I feel like being very intentional about it will help me get a better Ignite experience. And the only way I can do that really is to take that time off from work. And I'm sure they'd give it to me if I asked. I just haven't asked. And also, because of everything that's happened this year, I have a lot of holiday to take. So this is a good way to use it, I think. So yeah, that's what I'm doing. I hope it works out. We'll see. Yeah. So yeah, 5 interesting sessions for Ignite. Also, on the similar vein, actually, the Microsoft Teams team have put out their own blog post, a guide to Microsoft Ignite. So I'll put a link to that in the description as well. It's got the full list of sessions. It's got some nods to the keynote. So the featured sessions are, you've got the keynote, which is the Satya Nadella keynote that happens first. And then after that, you've got these featured sessions. So they tend to be kind of specific to the area, like modern work, for instance. So Jared Spataro doing a session called The Future of Modern Work. So he's the CVP for modern work. And then you'll have like big all-up sessions around creating a hybrid workplace with Microsoft Teams from somebody like Nicole, who's the general manager for Microsoft Teams marketing, and then Jeff Taper, CVP for Microsoft Teams. So these are the big high-level, kind of slightly the tier below the sort of big keynote. And then you've got all the breakout sessions, obviously, as well. Ask the experts. There's some other things as well. There's a digital brochure that you can get. So it's a bit like, I might print this out actually for my day, my physical, sort of like my attending Microsoft Ignite experience, because it's like a proper. I probably shouldn't print it. That's not great for the environment. It's an all digital brochure that I'm about to print. it's kind of cool. It's split up all the Teams breakout sessions by vertical, by type. So for instance, you've got like Teams meetings, Teams core and compliance, devices, compliance and management. You've got first line worker section, you've got industry, and they're all links as well. Oh, that's even better. So to all the sessions, to all the things that are going on, that's kind of cool. So yeah, link to that in the, you can't see this, can you? There we go. I need to do something with the layout of this, this particular scene, OBS scene. I think I've messed around with the resolution a few times, and I think like it's not well centered, but hopefully you can still see. So this is the digital brochure, and yeah, you can see here, this is what I was talking about. So these are the kind of vision statement, like keynote things, and then these are the kind of split up ones, and then all of these red ones as well are on demand. That's cool. Yeah, nice. And there's Ask the Expert sessions as well with sort of very specific times. Yeah, very cool. So that's all that stuff happening for Ignite. So that's everything you need really to go and enjoy Ignite. I presume by now you've registered. If you haven't, you should definitely go and do that, so that you're completely ready. Right, let's go and do something else. So one of the things is well, you can't see that either. The Teams virtual photo booth. Yeah, you can share your Teams spirit with a selfie. Interesting. So apparently it's available now, so I thought we'd just go and have a look at it. This is a bit unprompted and unscripted, this part, because I've not been here before. So the link is aka.ms/Teams photo booth. And you can show your team spirit with a selfie. So let's try that. Wants to access the camera. This might not work very well because I'm using my camera. So I feel like this is not going to work well. So maybe I should upload an image. Well, let's see. Let's just try snapping this one. It's not really an image, is it? But fine. What happens now? I can select a cool background. Nice, nice. Ooh. Teams background. I can add a frame. Teams at Ignite. It's cool. I can drop in some stickers. The team sticker. How do I drag? Oh no. Can you hear me? You're on mute. And I'm done. I can download it. I can share it on Twitter, social media. This is really cool. I like this. I'm going to come back when I'm not using my video and do one of these properly. Very nice. I like it. Cool. This is probably a good time as well, actually, to say thank you to Microsoft. So in the week, Microsoft sent me some stuff, just to sort of say thanks. Some MVP branded stuff, which is very nice of them. Some like a nice jacket to wear. This is by far the coolest. You might have seen this on Twitter. It's a face mask that says MVP on the side. So when I go to the shops, everyone will know that I am an MVP. I'm not sure it means much to the people in the village where I live, but you never know. And they sent me some other cool stuff as well, some stickers, a kind of cool mouse mat that is also a Qi wireless charger, which got me thinking. I wonder if you can get any mice that wirelessly charge with Qi, because that would be kind of cool, because your mouse would never run out of batteries. I thought this as I was changing the batteries on my mouse today. I thought, actually, I'm putting this mouse on this mouse, like this mouse mat that is also a built-in wireless charger. Wouldn't it be great if I could just not have to do that ever again? So no idea if those things exist, but perhaps I'll have a look later. Right, what do we get to? So other things that are happening. Oh yeah, this is quite a big one actually. So there's some changes coming up. This was talked about at the Microsoft Teams developer community call this week. And if you use the Microsoft Teams bot API, there's some changes coming to your Get Members async call or Get Members call. There's some shortcomings with them, those API calls. They don't work very well at scale. They're not very performant. And it's kind of a bit of a pain to go and get profile details for a single user. So basically they're making it better, which is nice. So there's a whole blog post about how they're going to change the response, and some new API, a new API call that they're making, and then also like a longer term change they're going to make, to basically switching you to use Microsoft Graph with an access token to go and get this information instead. So around that's for getting like things like properties of a member of a team. So like if you want to go and get the user principal name in the email out of a team, you have to go to Graph and get that instead. Some of those changes are coming soon, so by late 2021. So teamsinfo.getMembers async and teamsinfo.getMembers is now deprecated formally and will stop working in late 2021. So you got a while. Sorry, 2021. My bad. Sorry. Yeah, so you've got ages. Interestingly, yeah, interesting. So I was going to say, I was like scanning this and thinking you had less time than you do. So I think you're kind of fine. You've got until the end of 2021. You've got some time to figure this out. So, yep. You can go and still get the same information. You just need to go and get it from Graph instead. So some changes being made there. Some changes to making this better at scale. I'll say this again. I keep forgetting to share my screen. Some changes to this whole process around getting members and just making it more performant. So if you do any of that with the Teams bot API, go check this out and see if you need to rev your code, because I imagine you probably will want to anyway, because you'll get the performance gains. So that's good. But also there are some kind of deprecation notices now as well. So some of this stuff is going away. So definitely worth keeping an eye on. And finally, I wanted to call out a new episode of the All About 365 podcast with Jason and Steve. There's been a bit of a hiatus because of the whole kind of pandemic thing. So it's great to see them back together again in a socially distanced way in their garden, or somebody's garden by the look of it. So that's good to see. Yeah, really nice. There's a lot. They're talking about backup in 365, which is interesting. The whole concept of backing up data in Microsoft 365, which is a kind of interesting one, because you might think, well, it's the cloud, do I really need to worry about backups? Yes, I think you probably do, because why do you have a backup? Partly it's in case the data suddenly kind of catastrophically disappears, and maybe you need to worry about that less, because you'd hope Microsoft are all over that. But also there's rogue employees, there's people maliciously changing your data, there's all sorts of other reasons to worry about backup and restoring from backup. So yeah, interesting. So that is well worth checking out. I haven't had a chance to watch it, to listen to it myself yet, but it's my plan for the weekend to do so. Yeah, so all of those things to do. So what does next week look like then? Well, like I say, we've got Ignite coming up. That is Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday next week. Let's get this right. On Thursday, we have a table talk, a Microsoft Ignite table talk that I am co-hosting. So that is on the Thursday. We're going to be talking about why we're excited to be Microsoft developers right now. It's a very interactive session, so please come along, bring your thoughts, bring your comments, let's have a chat. It's not a kind of one-way presentation style thing. It's meant to be a collaborative experience, so come along for that. That should be interesting. Yeah, so I'm hoping for kind of lots of fun announcements, hoping for lots of interesting things around Ignite. I think next Tuesday may also be pre-order day for the new Xboxes as well, so that's happening next week, if that's of interest to you. But yeah, lots of interesting things happening. So I think it should be a good week next week, and we'll have plenty to talk about next time as well. But in the meantime, it's pretty much the end of the working week for me, so have a great weekend, whatever it is you're doing, and I will talk to you again